Video game modding, short for modification, is the process of alteration by players or fans of one or more aspects of a video game. Or at least, that's what it says on Wikipedia. Now, regarding Paradox games, or more specifically EU4, mods have become integral and oftentimes necessary to players. So that's why for today's video, I'm going to be showing you some of my favorite mods for EU4. From mods that I use literally every time I play the game, to some that are fun to check out once in a while, or even change things up from time to time so you don't get bored of the base game. So, let's jump in. Alright, so here we are in a regular game of EU4, and the first thing I thought I'd open up with for this video is mods that I use literally every single playthrough, and mods that you guys leave comments about quite often, asking about what mods I use, and these are of course visual mods. That's right, what I'm talking about is visual mods, mods that strictly change the way the game looks or how certain things in the game look, just, overall to have a better player experience, a more enjoyable experience. Now, there are 3 of those visual mods that I use every single game, and those are going to be the ones that I'm going to be talking about today. And before we start off, of course, I am going to leave a link to all of the mods that I talked about in this video in the description below, so you guys can check them out if you don't want to. But either way, the visual mods that I use for my game, man, are all Iron Man compatible, by the way. So you can get those mods and still play in Iron Man, which I'm not in right now because I just didn't click it. And you can have your achievements and stuff like that. Now, the first mod I'm going to talk about is obviously the mod that you can see right away when jumping into the game or when looking at one of my videos over here. And of course, you can tell by the way that the map looks, and that is graphical map improvements. That is what the mod is called. Now, when you go on the Steam page, or if you click the link that I've left in the description, you will notice that this mod is for an older version of the game, right? This mod is no longer being updated, but I have been using it for a couple of years now without the mod being updated for the latest version, and it still looks perfectly well. So I don't know, man, there's not too much to explain about this mod. This is just what the game looks without it. You can probably tell that it's a lot more opaque, right? Less transparent, which is something I love. Even though EU4 is such a good looking game, I think it's the best looking game out of the entire old batch of Paradox games. I guess I would consider Imperator, CK3, and Victory to be the new batch. And I've made my opinion clear on this topic many times. I do not like the way the games are designed in this newer generation of Paradox games, where you're all the way zoomed out and the map looks so nice. It looks flat. At the political map mode, you can clearly see all of the countries, but then as you zoom in, it sort of turns more opaque. And then when you get to down here, it basically looks like this. This is something I do not like at all. I hope it's not going to be like this in EU5. If it is like that, I'm going to be looking for a mod immediately. I do not want to look at the terrain, even less so because I've got graphical map improvements over here. And you can basically tell how, it makes all of the colors pop, right? It makes the colors pop. It's got these clearly defined, very dark black country borders right here. This is what the borders in between states look like. So this little thick dotted line, and then you got this little more transparent dotted line for the province borders itself. It also changes up the font a little bit. So the font is, darker. It's easier to see. And if I just turn off Terra Incognita here, I think, yeah, if I turn off Terra Incognita, you can basically see the entire world. And there are a couple of add-ons for this mod as well, different changes to the fonts, different changes to the water. I also love the way the water looks. It's pretty much like this. I mean, you can tell it just by looking at every single video. So yeah, man, that is one of the reasons I love this mod, graphical map improvements. It just makes everything bolder and pop more, and the borders are more clearly defined. I just love the colors and the way this mod makes the game look, and I honestly can't imagine myself playing without it, man. A couple of times when there's like a new DLC, when a new DLC was coming, obviously we as content creators get early access to it, but because it's like like a closed beta or something like that, I don't really run mods on it. And when I test out a new DLC, I'm like, this DLC is great, but it doesn't look the way I want it to look, man. It doesn't look the way I want it to look. So yeah, that was the first one, graphical map improvements. Now, the second one, the second must-use mod, for me at least, you can also see right here in just any game, man, and that is the Stellaris UI font. I think it's called Stellaris UI font 137 right now, but it pretty much changes the font for almost every single thing in the game. Now, there's 2 different mods like this, man. One of them literally changes the font for everything, and one is just on certain things. So first thing you can notice right here, man, is obviously the numbers up here, the age of discovery thingy, and this pop-out menu right here, the outliner. This is the Stellaris font, man, and I think it just makes it way cleaner, way more legible. You know, the EU4 font right here, Trajan, I think it's called. Obviously an iconic font, man. It's used up here. Obviously, you can still see it and on the map names. It's great, but, you know, it's not the most legible font. So that's why I love Stellaris UI font. Now, going back to what I said, it doesn't show up everywhere. You'll see, man. For example, it's all the way up here, but your name isn't. So you open up the country view, right? This part right here, for example, doesn't have the Stellaris UI font, and I'm just sort of used to that, right? When you go and hire advisors, all of this over here, this is still the regular font, but you go into the government right here, you know, it's still the same, right? It's still the same. But on other places, like for example, when you hover over pop-up menus like this, you know, tip menus or whatever you want to call it, that is really where the font pops up, and that's where I think is more needed, right? So imagine a new player comes in, you know, this is like way easier to read. At least that's what I'm taking a look at, right? Over here, it's still the same. So, but over here, for example, in trade, it's not the old font. So like I said, it's not changed everywhere. For example, in the tech department here, in the ideas, it's not. Over here, it is. In the missions, it is. In the decisions, it is. In the stability and expansion, it's not, right? So it's over here, it's not. So it's here and there, but you know, it's not always there. And if I unpause right here, if we wait for some events, you guys will see that, for example, the description and the name of the event itself has not changed, but this right here is. So I guess stuff that you interact with like super often, like pop-ups and things like this over here, right? Things you hover on, I think that is where it's active, whereas on other places it isn't. Now, this is the one I use, Stellaris UI font 137. The one that doesn't change it everywhere. You can look up once again on the workshop like Stellaris font or whatever, and there is a mod that changes it literally everywhere, if I'm not mistaken. I think there is. If you want that one, go for that one. This is the one I use, so it doesn't change it everywhere. It's just somewhere, and I think the highlighted you know, words work especially well with this mod. For example, the hills being yellow right here, and within your fort in Zelanic zone of control being green. I think that is really where it shines. And then finally, we get to my third must-have graphical mod right here, or visual mod, whatever you want to call it, and that is bigger UI. Bigger UI. You have to have it. Bigger UI. I think it's called Bigger UI 1.37. But with EU4 being an older game, man, it's like 2013 or whatever it is, right? It's not really made for our modern PCs or whatnot, right? That's why, you know, some things, you know, happen the way they do. But you open up regular EU4, man, this is this big. It's up to here, right? And then you open all of these up and it's all the way over here. So you only can see a couple of options right here when you're scrolling and stuff like that. Bigger UI deals with those issues, man. Bigger UI deals with those issues. It pretty much fills up the pop-up thingy as big as your screen is. Whereas if you don't have that mod, these menus over here especially, they're always as big as they need to be. And look, specifically when you look at the economy tab right here, right? This is how big it needs to be. Because there are these things here and there are these things here. There's no scrolling up and down. So that's why this is this big. For the other things, it's that big too. Tech and economy, for example, things that don't need to change. So without this mod, man, you open up government, sorry, it's still here. You open up diplomacy, it's still here. You open up, you know, ideas, it's still right there. You know, missions is the same. So you definitely need bigger UI, man. It's super helpful for the estates, of course, for religion converting, seeing, you know, whatever is going on in your country, for the missions as well, scrolling. It's super helpful, man. Really, that mod impacts these menus the most, right? When you click on your country and whenever the pop-ups, you know, open up, that's what it affects the most. But it's something you interact literally all the time. You know, the government reforms right here as well. The production interface. I don't think it changes the production interface. But you know, there's a suggestion for the mod makers, man. You can open this bitch up too. You know, I don't want to have to scroll through all of these merc companies. You know, the religions, the lowering autonomy, cultures, buildings, development, and whatnot. So yeah, I wish they'd include that as well. But this is what it includes, man. So yeah, those are my you know, a brief overview of the 3 mods that I deem the most essential, that I literally, no exaggeration, can't play a game of EU4 without. Like I said, compatible with Iron Man. There'll be a link to all of these mods in the description. You can use none of them, you can use all of them, you can use one of them. And yeah, those are just the graphical must-have mods that I use. Graphical map improvements, even though it's on an old version, it works. Stellaris UI font, that's not everywhere, even though there is a version with it everywhere. And then bigger UI 1.37, man. Those are must-have mods for me. So yeah, with the basics out of the way, and hopefully questions that you guys ask on every single video answered, and I hope those guys that are asking take a look at this video. Yeah, with all of those things done, I think now it's time to get into some actual gameplay mods that I really like, I think are really good right now, and that I think are worth checking out. Maybe not to play always, but at least from time to time. All right, here we are in the first must take a look at mod, in my experience and in my opinion, and of course a lot of you will already be able to tell, but at this point, ladies and gentlemen, it's a classic. Almost everyone has tried it out, and that is the extended timeline mod for EU4. Now, what extended timeline does is basically lets you start from this date right here, 58 AD, and it lets you play all the way until the year 9999. Now, when you first download this mod, man, what a lot of people play this mod for is actually the modern day start date right here, which apparently is now called the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It starts on June 15th, 2024. I guess that's the date that the latest, patch was dropped on. But yeah, it's pretty much modern world, man. Almost every single country is present, depending on your viewpoint, of course. Now, some of you, of course, will leave comments like, why is Crimea in Russia? Why, blah, blah, blah. And that's just up to the mod creators, man. You got rebels in Libya, for example. It's just, it's basically not, it's as an accurate representation as the mod creator wants it to be. But all of those things aside, man, the reason that players get this mod is literally, I would say 85% to play in the modern day. And don't worry, man, this isn't just like a map changer and then it's all regular EU4. I will be showing it off pretty soon, but for example, you can immediately tell that the provinces are different, man. The provinces are different. The borders are basically designed on what the modern world looks like. And yeah, obviously we got all of these straight borders here. It's not all, inaccessible terrain over here in the Sahara and Arabia and stuff like that. It's pretty much designed by the modern day borders, and you can literally play as any nation in the world right now. I guess if it's on the UN or whatnot, or maybe even if it isn't in the UN. But yeah, this is pretty much what the 2024 apparently start date looks like in extended timeline. Now, before we actually jump into the game to show off some of the intricacies, I will show off a couple of other start dates right here that are, that you can start on, but it's pretty much every single year up to the present day that you want. But of course, the first one that it opens up with is the Roman-Parthian War right here. This is, sort of what the world looked like at that point. You can play as Rome. You can play as some of these German tribes up here. You can play in the Middle East and India as the Han Dynasty. Not a lot of natives over here, but if that's your thing, you can play in it. If we move over, a bit to the fall of Rome, for example, you got Byzantium or the Eastern Roman Empire, and then, various breakaway states over here, some warring Chinese nations. Then you can move to Justinian the Great right here. Byzantium still present. You can do the rise of Islam start date, recreate that whole thing that they did. You can go to the foundation of the HRE right here. This is what Europe looks like at that point. This is what I'm showing off because, of course, more players will be interested in this during that time frame. You can do like the Third Crusade, for example, play as Baldwin or whatnot. The Mongol Empire start date, the Mongol invasion after they've already expanded quite a lot. You can do the 100 Years War start date, which is just slightly less than a year after what EU5's start date is gonna be. Of course, EU5 looking way more detailed than this. The Golden Horde has already collapsed. And then, of course, you have some of the standard EU4 start dates right here from 1444 all the way to Revolutionary France, I think, as the final start date. But of course, things will look slightly different because even though it is EU4 start date, it is, still the other provinces and the world does look slightly different, but it will play pretty similarly the standard EU4. Of course, there are texts before and after this. There are way more idea groups. There's lots of stuff that we'll get in pretty soon, but you have other fun scenarios, man, like the Victorian era. You can play like Vic 3 in EU4. You can do World War I, for example. That's the scenario right here. And I know by scrolling to all of these start dates, I'm kind of messing it up. But if you go into diplomacy, you can see that the world is already at war. You can do the Second World War start date. This is what that's looking like, for example. As we can see, Germany has already done Anschluss and eating Czechoslovakia. You can do the Cold War, do scenarios like that, the US, the Soviet Union. And then you got the fall of the Soviet Union, so early 90s start date. Yugoslavia is still half together. And then, of course, we get to the modern day, and these are some of the recommended starts. Now, we're just going to jump into a random nation right here, Germany, for example, and I'm going to show you how this, what other changes are featured over in extended timeline. I'm sure a lot of you watching will already know it by now, but it doesn't just change the map, and it doesn't just add extra start dates or extra years. So the first thing you'll notice, for example, if I get to click that away, is, the government reforms right here. You can scroll through all of that. Some of these are pretty standard. There are a lot more, obviously. We can get to 26, for example. But more importantly, if we go into the tech department, you will see all of these ages right here. And if you go into the modern start date, we're at Tech 91 in the information age. So this is something that this mod adds. So we got the classical age, right? Late classical, migration, dark age, feudal age, high middle ages, late middle ages, age of discovery. Now these are, EU4s. Reformation, absolutism, revolutions, then industrial age, great war age, and finally the information age is the final one. All of these have, their flavors added, stuff you need to accomplish right here, bonuses you can get. So that is one a pretty important change. Going back to technology, if we go into the institutions, you can see just how many institutions over here there are, man. So writing, for example, right? You got ancient imperialism, legalism, the caste system, manorialism, civil service, guilds, medicine. Then you get the, EU4's ages right here. You get past that, imperialism, industrialization, nationalism, electrification. Look, apparently Congo doesn't have electricity in 2024. I don't think that's exactly true, but hey, it's just an institution, I guess. We got globalization, right? The internet is pretty much unlocked. Serbia doesn't have the internet in 2024, apparently, or Iraq, right? It's not real world, but, it's just the way institutions work. You got different ideas. You can unlock way more idea groups. And obviously, if you start at any start date that's not, 58 AD with Rome, you will already have a lot of idea groups unlocked. For example, in regular EU4, right? You start off certain things and, there's obviously idea group picked and stuff like that. But here the dev changes too, man, in certain places. And that's something I really like too. So let's just take a look at some of the ideas right here. If I go back to the ideas right here and just cancel all of them, just so we can take a look at all of them before you unlock them. First of all, you can do, what's this, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 different ideas. So you got the standard ones right here at the top that regular EU4 has, right? But if you scroll down, you will notice 3 extra ones right here. So early admin, early religious, order ideas, early diplo, early trade freedom ideas, early offensive, early defensive, and autocracy ideas. So I guess these are all that nations would have picked before you start in EU4's start date, right? And obviously, since we're doing the modern world, a lot of nations have already picked out other ones, and these early ones are some that you can only unlock right at the start, right? So that's pretty nice. We got the standard missions right here, and there's lots more decisions right here that you can do. You can do cultural assimilation, for example, ruler policy to inspire soldiers. So these are more like I would say maybe Hoi 4 style decisions or other game style decisions as opposed to EU4, but there are lots of other things as well. You can do a communist government, fascist government. You can leave the European Union, which I guess kind of exists at this point in the game. I don't know how exactly we would see it. Maybe it's the HRE map mode. No, it's not. But yeah, and this is like the modern day religious map mode. You got the political parties, right? The conservatives, the communists, the liberals. You got the parliament right here, at least now playing as Germany. So, you can start a space program, unite the German people, whatever that is. And our country will change to East Francia, apparently. You can do state atheism. A lot of countries are secular, of course, interestingly enough. Not a lot of unsecular nations over in Europe. It's Denmark that's officially Protestant, Greece that's officially Catholic. I think England, isn't England like, I guess it's not. I guess it's not. But yeah, unfortunately, the Vatican not present, or San Marino or something like that. Otherwise, they would officially not be secular as well. But we got some countries with official religions elsewhere in the world. That is what that's looking like. You can do nukes, obviously. Lots of cool things that you can do. So it's definitely not, as you guys can see, it's definitely not just a start in a different start date in a different year. With the map changes, there's lots of other things you can do with this game, especially with the ages, the institutions, the ideas, and the religions and stuff like that. So if you want to bring back, you know, Crusader states or something like that, I guess you can do it even in 2024. And look at that, the rebels have already broken free from Libya. How amazing. So yeah, that is pretty much what extended timeline looks like, man. Check it out for yourselves. Definitely one of the most popular EU4 mods of all time. Definitely a classic at this point. Lots of things you can do with it. And if you want to switch it up, do a little meme scenario in the modern day, or try out other start dates. I don't know why Newfoundland exists. Honestly, I don't know why this is here. But yeah, that is what that's looking like. And that is extended timeline for EU4. Link in the description. All right, here we are in our next mod that I want to showcase, and I have done a couple of videos about this recently, so you guys can go ahead and check them out. But a lot of you will recognize it. It's one of the most popular mods for EU4 right now. It's not that old, but it's been gaining popularity like crazy. This is Post Finem, made by my boy Chewy, and it's pretty much an alternate history mod. It falls into that type of category where the premise is that Rome lost to Carthage, and this is how the world ended up looking like. Now, in this overview screen right here, you will notice that the stars are still in 1444. You know, some of these bookmarks over here, at least the new ones, showcase the nations that have been updated in those versions, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, but this is pretty much what the world is looking like, or what the world ended up looking like in a world where Carthage won over Rome. Now, once again, this is not just a mod that, you know, overhauls the map and puts different nations on there. Lots of other things have been changed over here, man, and it's super in depth. So a lot of these nations over here, at least the major powers, they will have their own unique national ideas. All of these nations are brand new. There's new formables, new idea groups, mission trees, even very in-depth mission trees, might I add, for a lot of these countries over here. But that's once you get into the nit and grit of playing as a certain nation. Going back to the grand overview right here, let me show off some things that have changed. So the map is mostly the same in a lot of areas, but in a lot of areas it has also been revamped. Like you will notice in Italy, for example, a lot of provinces have been added. Some stuff over here has been changed as well. Over here too in the Middle East, lots of stuff has been added. So that is just, you know, some of the province changes. You can just, you know, go in and see which countries are present here. You got Gaul, for example. They are a Druidic nation, and I'll get into religious quickly here, but you know, you got Gaelic ideas right here, you know, Osthomer ideas, Kashubian ideas. So a lot of these guys, man, they do have very good flavor, almost all of them, at least the major nations, like I said, with national ideas and missions. But if you go into the trade tab, for example, you will see that the trade nodes have been changed up as well. And by the way, I should say at the start that this mod focuses primarily on this region right here. I don't know if Chewy has plans to expand the map more than that. I think he does. But yeah, this is primarily the region that's been overhauled. But going back to the trade map, you will notice that there are quite a lot of changes to the trade nodes as well. So that is what some of those are looking like right there. If you go into the religions map, what you will see, Christianity and Islam, they're not that present over here, man. You know, you got the stuff over here in the West, Punic religion. So this is where Carthage was the strongest. Over in the East, it's mainly Hellenic, where the Hellenic nations are strong. You got a bunch of Jewish strongholds, Roman religious, East Germanic, Druidic, Norse is still present. Suomennusko up here, which is like the Finnish one. Romuvo over here, which did exist in the real world. Some Slavic folk religion amalgamations right here. Arabic, you know, Evangelos right here. Islamic, Zoroastrian is all over Persia. This is all Tengrius, so there are a lot of changes to religions as well. The HRE kinda exists in this mod as well, except it's not really the HRE. It's the Italian Federation, of which Rome is the emperor. You got all of these electors right here, you know, free cities. It's super, super hard to fight these guys, by the way. Way harder than fighting the HRE in regular EU4. Then you got various different cultures as well, man. You will notice like the Gaelic cultures right here, you know, the Swabian, the Celtic, the Italian guys, Macedonian Greeks, Egyptian Greeks, Seleucid Greeks, Anatolian Greeks. These guys up here, Norcan, Baltic cultures, Slavic cultures, you know, Norse cultures and Finnic cultures as well. So a lot of changes to the cultures and culture groups as well. Over here in Persia, changes as well. North Africa. If you go into the regions map mode, the regions are different as well. But once again, man, all of these super, super nice changes, and that's only touching the surface. Now, let me go ahead and jump into a game, for example, as Rome right here, and I'll just show off some of the stuff that are more nation specific that you'll get to notice once you play the game. And by the way, man, there's loading screens for this mod that it comes with. There are various flavor events. It's really just super in-depth, boys. It's super in-depth. So ages over here about the same. You can go into the government reforms, for example, the Crown of Roma, a federal seat. So unique tier 1 government reforms for various nations, unique other reforms later on, appoint Shire Reeves, for example, ritualized diplomacy, support Punic festivals, right? There are lots of other changes to this as well. Over here, if we go into the, into the ideas, you will notice some new idea groups as well. So liberty ideas, assimilation ideas, firepower ideas, so new idea groups as well. Custom Roman national ideas. Look at this mission tree for Rome, man. Look at this mission tree for Rome. That's insane for mod, and this isn't even one of the bigger ones, man. This isn't even one of the bigger ones, but there are also various decisions you can do, you know, remove migratory tribes, just so these guys, you know, if I once again remove Terra Incognita here, just so these guys are removed and your game runs faster. You're not going to interact with the New World, so why not get them out of there? You can go ahead and, you know, change your country to Rome, actually Rome. This is like a sort of a leftover inheritor state from the actual Rome. So you can form Rome, you get new missions, new idea groups, new government reforms. Then you can abolish the Italian Federation, for example, as Rome. Let me enter like debug mode right here. Let's tag Macedonia, for example, right? The main leftover state from Alexander, or whatever you want to call it, along with Egypt. And by the way, Egypt is Greek as well in this mod. Take a look at this mission tree right here. This is absolutely a huge mission tree with branching missions as well. And this is, once again, let me remind you guys, this is a mod, man. Super, super in-depth. Like I said, I did a couple of videos. I actually played as Macedonia in those videos, so you guys can check that out as well. But lots of these nations, man, they got lots of unique flavor for them. It's super unique and super interesting playing as any of these guys. Definitely one of the more in-depth mods I've checked out. And if you want like a total, not a total overhaul, but a very in-depth alt history mod that you're gonna have a lot of fun with, this is definitely the one to go, man. This is definitely the one to go with. And don't get it twisted, man. You can play as Carthage, you can play as Rome. These guys are actually some of the harder ones, you know. For easier starts, I would probably recommend like Gaul, Macedonia, Egypt, or Persia, or something like that, if you want to give the big boys a shot and sort of you know, what you call it, learn the game. But this is a, you know, a mechanic for the Persian Empire right here, the Khan of Khans. Sorry, not the Khan of Khans. This is for the for these guys up here. There we go. My mistake a little bit. Yeah, so for these guys, these are their tributaries. You got the Italian Federation right here. You know, you got the free cities, you got the princes, you got the electors down here, decentralized reforms, centralized reformed. You can add federal officers. These are sort of the reforms. Religious tension is present over here as well for the, for the Punic faiths. The Hellenic guys, they got kind of like the Pope, which is located in Athens. So it's super, super interesting. Let me tag, for example, Athens right here, so you can see those mechanics. There we go. There's the Athenaeum right here, which is kind of like the papacy. It's so good, man. Lots of these religions have their own things, the nations have their own things, the cultures, and I just think it's a really, really cool mod. So yeah, this is one of my favorite mods right now, man. Definitely my favorite alt history mod right now. It's made by my boy Chewy, like I said, so I highly recommend you checking this out. And that has been my second must-try mod of the day, of course not counting the graphical mods. Now let's go into the last one, one that I've tried recently and that I enjoyed quite a lot. And here we are in our final mod that I want to showcase today, ladies and gentlemen. It's a sort of a scenario-based mod, I would say, where, as you can tell, what would happen if all of the states in North America existed in 1444? So, on first glance, man, obviously, this is the SuperStates mod. A lot of you will know this as well, a super popular mod out right now. That even though it hasn't been updated past 136, it still works and it's still very popular. So normally, man, you would jump into this gameplay to play as some of the United States nations over here, all of which exist as well. But there's a lot more than meets the eye to this mod, because all of the Canadian states and provinces, along with the Mexican ones, along with the US territories as well, and the Australian states and provinces all exist in this mod right here, man. And even some of these nations over here have been added, for example, such as Mariana Islands or Guam or Chuuk, for example, or Pohnpei, whoever that is. But this mod, man, pretty much overhauls mainly the entirety of North America. And once again, the reason I chose this, it's not just a change to the map and custom nations created and you just jump in and play as them. Just like Post Finem right now that I showcased by Chewy, this is a mod that has a ton of work put in as well, with a lot of flavor for these nations right here. Now, let's judge it by this, initial start date right here. There are a couple of other start dates right here that I'm going to showcase. So along with the strange times 1444 start date, there's also the regional nations right here, where basically it's just divided by regions. It's as simple as that. Then you have the Federal States of America versus the Confederate States of America start dates. So you have the Free States and the Confederate States, and then you got some of these other guys located right here that you can choose to play as, to poke around in these two other guys. Then you got the US start date as well, which is basically just the entirety of the United States along with the colonized New World. Then you got Mexico right here with fully formed Mexico. Then you got the Confederate States, where it's just the US and the Confederate States, but the US owns the rest over here as well. You got the Canada scenario right here, where Canada exists, and then you got the Australia scenario, where Australia exists as well. But normally you would probably play on this start date right here. Some recommended starts are Ontario, California, Texas, Arizona, New York, Quebec, Jalisco, and New South Wales. But I found California, Texas, and Florida, and New York are pretty strong in this mod, just like in real life. But trade nodes have also been revamped, man. There are a couple of end nodes over here, super cool, pretty much for the entirety of North America up to Panama right here. And then in the religions department, it's very interesting because there's an overhaul to this too. So you got Amero Protestant, which is basically how the US is set up right now. You got the Mormons right here, Amero Catholic and stuff like that. And that is all standard. However, there are other religions that can spawn later on as well, such as Methodists and Baptists and stuff like that. And then over in the rest of Europe, when Protestantism actually spawns, the colonizers can bring over actual Protestantism or actual Catholicism or whatnot over here. So that's super interesting as well. So yeah, man, you wanted to do a Mormon empire? Now you can. Going over in the cultures map mode, we have these culture groups set up, which is the New Englander ones. Of course, I'm focusing specifically on the US right here, but it's for Canada, Mexico, and Australia as well. You got the New Englander guys, the Mid-Atlantic, the Southerner guys. You got some Caribbean culture, American Southwest, Great Plainers, Midwestern, Great Laker, Intermountain Western, and Pacific Coastal. So those are just some of the basic changes that you can notice right away. And of course, I did do a couple of videos for this mod as well, where I played as Texas, and it was super fun. So you guys can check those out as well. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump in as California, for example. And I'm going to show off some of the things that are nation specific, just like I did over in Post Finem. Even though this isn't really an alt history mod, it's sort of a scenario based mod. And I'm going to show that off just now. So all of these guys right here, man, every nation that you're seeing that has been put into this mod, all of these guys have unique national ideas, and they're all super fun. So, for example, a lot of these guys start off as American state republics, right? They're pretty standard. If I go into debug mode right here and tag into Texas, you will notice that some of these are slave state republics, for example. So they gain bonuses to production efficiency, negative stuff for institution embracement. And for example, I know that from playing Texas, there are actually a couple of different government reforms you can get as Texas. But let's say we tag Florida right here, we'll notice that they are a slave state republic as well. So I guess it's pretty much, free states and slave states for the tier 1 government reforms. Let's tag into Ontario, for example. They are a Canadian provincial parliament. If we tag into Durango, for example, over in Mexico, they're a Mexican state republic. So all of these guys right here do have unique tier 1 government reforms. Now, going back to California right here, man, you will notice, that the parliament is active, the legislature, I should say, and you can definitely, continue to play as American state republics. You can flip between that and slave republics. There are lots of unique reforms for all of these guys over here. But going over in the ideas, man, ideas are pretty standard right here. However, missions is something that this mod is really, really good at. So all of these guys right here, man, they got really nice mission trees. Some of the major guys even route you into a certain way to forming other nations. For example, as California, you can form Pacifica, right? And there are sort of, you start off as the states, then you got like the regional formable, which I guess would be for the entire Pacific Coast region if you're playing someone as that. You can form the North American Union, which is still not the, I guess that will be after the United States, right? So if you're like a free state guy, an American state republic, you can form the US. If you're playing as someone southern, for example, as Louisiana, you're able to form the Confederate States and the United States as well. And then I guess after that comes the North American Union, which is, comprises all of all of North America, and that's sort of the regional formable after the US or the Confederate States. But while we're here as Louisiana, man, you will notice that these guys also have some missions. But for example, you guys saw how many missions California has. If we tag into Texas right here, which I played, they have a huge mission tree as well. Let's tag into, for example, New York. It is a pretty major nation. They got a really big mission tree as well. So lots of flavor for all of these guys right here. They all have unique national ideas as well. They are pretty strong. And let me tell you, man, it's not the same, The map has been revamped quite a lot as well. If we go back to Texas right here, for example, you will notice that the provinces are different. So they're named after, the counties that they're set in. For example, Dallas, you got, Houston and Harris County over here, or Austin and Travis County or whatnot. So yeah, the map has been changed up as well. These are the areas, for example. They don't match the states exactly, but that's because, they're too big and there's too many provinces for the state of Texas to actually be one area. So map changes, those are present as well. And these provinces, man, let me tell you, some of them are really highly developed. The AI in this mod does develop quite a lot. You might think, oh, I'm just going to start as California or Texas or Ontario or Quebec and conquer all of this. No, that's extremely difficult. You're not going to be doing that, man. But yeah, as Texas, you can form the Southwest, the CSA, the USA, North American Union. You can form New Spain as well because you do have some of those cultures over there. So yeah, super, super nice, man. Lots of things to do as all of these guys. Lots of formables. Lots of missions, unique national ideas for all of these guys, and you're definitely going to have a lot of fun, even though I would say it is pretty hard to expand in this mod, man. It is pretty hard. All of these guys ally each other, super high dev, super high aggressive expansion, but nevertheless, really, really fun. And yeah, that's pretty much what SuperStates brings, man. Revamped to North America and Australia, basically, half of the New World, I would say, without South America. So these guys still have somewhere to colonize, and you get in touch with them and stuff like that. But yeah, lots of unique changes, lots of flavor, which is mainly why I'm showcasing this and post Finem, because work has been put in to make these guys unique. Give them ideas, give them missions, give them flavor events, give them formables, new formables, old formables, lots of releasables as well. That's something I didn't mention, lots of releasables. And yeah, I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun, even though some things, you may encounter some bugs. For example, if you click this, your game will crash because it's for 136. But yeah, it still works as long as you avoid, well, at least just this. Yeah, and that has been our final must-have mod of the day, SuperStates. So yeah, boys, those were the mods that I decided to showcase today. My 3 must-have graphical mods and 3 gameplay mods that you guys might want to check out if you're a little bored of the vanilla game. I definitely recommend all of them. They all run great. Links will be in the description. I have done videos for post Finem and for SuperStates, so check those out if you want to see the gameplay as well. And yeah, let me know in the comments below if you know of any other mods that I should review, and let me know what you think of these mods if you have or are using any of them. But if you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot. And if you like the content and want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of them. And you can become a member today and join the Discord, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.